Hello and welcome. My name is Dustin, and in this video we're going to be talking all about the baritone saxophone. I'll be talking about this instrument, providing my thoughts about it, and at the end I'll play it in a variety of styles so you can hear what it sounds like. Alright, let's get started. So, the first thing we have to talk about is the elephant in the room, and that is the size. This instrument is really big, obviously. It's a large instrument and it has a lot of tubing. And because it has a lot of tubing, because it's so large, it plays really low notes. Actually, in fact, out of the four main saxophones, it's the lowest pitched of the main four. It can play the lowest notes. It also requires more air support. So if you're used to playing tenor or alto, if you switch to bari, you'll find that you're going to have to use a lot more air, especially if you play the lower notes. This baritone has a low A, and the low A key is right below the left thumb, below the octave key. And so there's also baritones that are a low B flat, go all the way down to low B flat, but this one goes to low A. And so that's pretty low down there. And you'll see that when I play it later on. Also, this instrument is pretty heavy. I just weighed it a day or two ago, and this bari right here is about 12 pounds. And they can get heavier than this. So it's a pretty heavy instrument. And that brings me to my second point, which is how comfortable is it to play the bari? Well, being as it's so heavy, you should probably stay away from the traditional neck strap. If you use the traditional neck strap with the bari, your neck is going to hurt. And down the line, you're going to have a lot of neck problems. You're going to have to go see the chiropractor. It's not going to be good for you. So if you play bari, you switch to bari, please get a harness like I've got on here. With this harness, all the weight is transferred to my shoulders and my upper back, but all the weight is off of my neck. And so if you play bari, definitely invest in a harness. It'll save your neck. Bari is really fun to play if it's comfortable, and it's comfortable only when you have a harness where the weight is taken off of your neck. So get yourself a harness. So next, let's talk about where you might find a bari sax. Well, there's a lot of different types of music that you see a bari sax in, and a lot of different types of groups. First, you might see it in a big band setting. In a big band, there's 5 saxophones, 2 altos, 2 tenors, and 1 baritone. And the baritone holds the low end of the saxophone section down. It also is a point of reference for tuning for the other saxophones. And it's the ground for all the other saxophones to play over. So the bari is really important in the saxophone section in a big band. You also see it in a funk setting. And this is where the bari really shines. When you see it in a funk band, and it can play the really punchy low notes and the big jumps and skips. You see a lot of that going on with the bari sax. It's really fun in terms of funk music. You also might see it in a sax quartet. In a sax quartet, there's one of each saxophone, soprano, alto, tenor, and bari. And the bari, again, like the big band setting, holds down the lower end and plays the lower notes and provides a ground for the other saxophones to tune to. So it's really important, a part of the sax quartet. Last but not least, classical. You don't see a lot of bari in classical music. You usually see, if you play bari in a classical setting, you're usually playing music written for some other instrument. The most common instrument you're going to play on the bari, in terms of music, is cello. Actually, the bari sounds a lot like the cello, and that's one of my reasons why I love this instrument. I'll explain the other reasons later on in the video, but It sounds a lot like the cello. You can play a lot of cello music. Any bass clef instrument, you can read that music with the bari sax. All you got to do is cross out the bass clef, put a treble clef there, read the notes as if they're treble clef notes, and then add 3 sharps to the key signature, and you can read any bass clef music. It's great. So next, let's talk about the price. This is one of the bad things about playing the bari, the price. This instrument, because it's so large, because it has a lot of tubing, because it has bigger keys on it, because it's harder to make, unfortunately is quite expensive. A lot of baritones, you don't see a lot of baritones being made at the student level, because since this is so big and since this has longer parts and bigger parts, it has to be built like a tank. And so you don't see that with student instruments. So you don't see a bari at the student level very often. So they're not made at the student level very often. Yamaha makes a good student bari, but otherwise you don't see it very often in the student level. So you see more intermediate and professional level baris. That's why they're so expensive. Also, like I said, the parts are bigger. Everything is bigger on a bari sax, so that raises the price. And it's not as popular as the alto or the tenor, and so not very many of them are made compared to the other saxophones, and so that raises the price a little bit as well. So if you were to transfer to bari and you wanted to buy your own, even if you wanted to go cheap, you're going to be spending at least $2,000 or $3,000 for something used, even at the intermediate level. So it's pretty expensive, even if you go cheap on the bari, and that can skyrocket all the way up past $10,000. Yeah, these can get pretty expensive. This bari is a Selmer Mark VI, and I believe it's late 1950s, maybe early 1960s. I think that's when it was made, and that's why it looks so old. But this is a good bari, and I'm using it until I can afford my own next year. So next, let's move on from price and let's dive into why I love this instrument so much. Why it's one of my favorite saxophones. Number one, the low notes. When I play a low note on this instrument, it is so rewarding. Unlike when you play it on alto or tenor, when you play low notes on this thing, the thing shakes. It vibrates, and you can feel that. Not only can you hear it, but you can actually feel those vibrations underneath your fingers. It is just incredible. It sounds amazing, and it feels amazing when you play those lower notes. And you just feel like you have so much power. It's great. Those low notes are great. I love playing those low notes for funk, and you'll see that in a bit when I play test it for you. Those low notes are great on bari. They feel great. And high notes too. A lot of people, when they think of the bari sax, they think of the low notes, and that's obviously it's a low instrument. But I also love the high notes. And when I play, you'll notice that it can sound really lush and beautiful in the higher register too. So when you play the high notes, it doesn't sound shrill. It just sounds pleasant. And that's another reason why I love the bari sax. It sounds great up high too. And last but not least, I mentioned this before, but the final thing I'd like to say about why I love this instrument is that it sounds so much like a cello. I can't overstate the fact enough that playing cello music is fun. And so when you play that cello music on the bari, like I said, you don't have to do anything with the music. You just read it as treble clef music, and you add 3 sharps to the key signature, and you've got it. You can play it. And it sounds so much like a cello. And so you can sound really beautiful on this instrument in the classical setting because it sounds so much like a cello. So those are some reasons why I love this instrument. I would highly recommend that you try this instrument out. Don't buy one at first. Try it first because they are expensive. But you should definitely try it out because you'll see what I mean when you play those low notes on the bari for the first time. You're gonna love it. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna play a few things on this instrument for you so you can really hear what it sounds like in a few different settings. All right, so I hope you enjoyed this video on the baritone saxophone. I hope you love this instrument or enjoyed this instrument as much as I do. And if you don't play the bari currently, you should definitely try it out. I highly recommend it. It is an amazing instrument. Let me know in the comments if you try a bari and what you think of it. I would love to know if you try it out and see what you think about it. With that, thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.